want the pan to be on the side with your face. You don't want it to go off accidentally like it did a minute ago. Yep. He was very safe, but he was being careful, keeping the weapon away from himself. Gentlemen. Handle your musket to load. Open your pan. Prime your piece. Prime it well. Musket was called a piece. You could say prime your musket or prime your piece. Shut your pan. Cast off loose corns. Blow off your pan. Cast about your piece. Handle your charged bottle. Charge your piece. Withdraw your scouring stick. Ram home, shorten your scouring stick. Ram home your charge. Put away your scouring stick. Bring about your piece to fire. Cock your match. Try your match. Blow on your match. Present your piece. Open your pan and give fire. Huzzah! Uncock your match. Blow out your pan. Shoulder your piece. All right, so once again, during the training period, we'd go through these commands. But these gentlemen have enough training now, so what we're going to do is we're going to say, make ready your piece. And they're going to go through the same commands that we just went through. I mean, they're going to perform the same functions that we just went through without me giving the commands. Because like in a battle, when there's drums beating and guns going on, people wouldn't be able to hear it anyway. Make ready your piece. Now, under real battles, there would be another step, which would be putting a musket ball in. But we're not going to do that today because we don't want to shoot anything. Finish your piece. Open your pan. Give fire. See, now we've got some clean muskets, so we're not having the same problems we had before. And these gentlemen, go ahead and make ready. Make ready your piece. The guns are dried out, and they're getting more experience, and they're going to probably fire these guns every time now. The important thing is to take care that you don't leave out any steps, because once again, you're carrying a whole bandolier full of, charges, and you don't want to get those mixed up with your match. You're holding that match in your hand. That's one of the most difficult things to learn how to do, because it's much harder than a cigarette cherry. So if you get that between your, you can burn yourself. So they have to be very careful not to do that. Present your piece. Open your pan. Make ready. Give fire, Musketeers, uncock your matches. Blow out your pans. Shoulder your piece. Now we're going to fire some more in a few minutes. But right now, if you have any questions, I'd like for these gentlemen to, can you step forward? You might want to ask them questions about their gear and things.
Sponge the piece. Should be damp already. Alright. At this point we will bring up the charge. Load the charge. Ram home the charge. Prick and prime. Bring forth your match. Don't stand directly behind it. Always to one side. Give. Fire. Boom. Search the piece. Plunge the piece. Gun is secure. Everybody feel good?
Just like that. And can I ask you?
Bottom. Same thing happens with gunpowder when it's dry mix. It separates into its three pieces and you have to stir it back up while people are shooting at you. Bad idea. So eventually they go to wet mix and solve that problem. But you're still putting it in with just a scoop. You know, the bag comes a little bit later on. A lot of things change in artillery over the 17th century. And eventually they figured out most of it by that point. How many here took trigonometry? Yeah, you can admit it. You can actually mention. Yeah. Do you know why trig exists? Or even who invents it? It's an Italian guy. His name's Tartaglia. He invents it to figure out ballistics. 500 years ago, pre-Tartaglia, they believed a projectile does this. Goes up to this point and it comes down from that point. When in fact we now know today it's like this. The reason we know it works like this, Tartaglia.
More of a curve?
Yeah, the ballistic curve. Okay. Yep, that's what trigonometry is invented to figure out. And if you happen to speak 15th or 16th century Italian, you can actually download Tartaglia's manual that tells you all about it. I don't, so I just look at the pictures. It's worked well for me so far. But yeah, that's invented to describe the flight of a projectile. A lot of stuff they're figuring out, guys. This is really, really early in, well, anything powder related, even though powder weapons have been in Europe since the 1300s. The first one looks like a vase with an arrow sticking out of it, but they fairly quickly adapt from there. Artillery pieces are coming up, generically known as guns, okay, not cannons. Cannon's something different, guys. Cannon fires a bowling ball. 8 inches in diameter, weighs 64 pounds. Okay, at this point, they each have a name. So, yeah.
So is that not considered a cannon?
No, that is a gun or an artillery piece.
Okay.
Is a falcon or falconet by name. The blue gun is a falcon. So
Still
this
not
is
a cannon.
Right, 3-pounder, 6-pounder, cannon, 64-pounder.
Okay.
It's literally firing a bowling ball.
Yep, yep.
So at this point, they're giving each one its own separate name. Now imagine the confusion this is going to cause, because different countries use the same name for different pieces. And eventually, again, 17th century, they go, why don't we just call them by how big a piece of metal they're shooting? Then you get your 3-pound, 6-pound, 12-pound, etc. But still early on that. Eventually they'll take that giant gun They'll shrink it down to something about that long and they'll put it on a stick. That's the beginning of a musket, called a handgun. Hand meaning it is man portable. So you could have a handgun that's, oh, the barrel, the working portion's about this big and weighs 25 or 30 pounds. But one man can move this thing, handgun. Eventually in the mid 1400s, somebody says, well, instead of sticking a hot wire in it, which you have to keep in the fire right next to where your gunpowder is, still figuring things out. They're going to say, well, we take the slow match, the same thing we were using to set this off, and that's a cord soaked in nitrates. It burns slowly like a cigarette, and initially you're putting it into a handgun the same way we did it here. It's all a little in stock, right? Not real effective for aiming. So somebody figures out, let's take that lens stock and mount it to the side of the gun. So now when you squeeze it, it pulls it down, it's attached. At that point, lock, stock, and barrel, you've probably heard the term, are all connected. That's mid 1400s. The matchlock musket, same thing these guys are using here, will be a frontline firearm somewhere on this planet for the next 400 years. That's how reliable they are. I know those of you who were here earlier saw we had some issues, but we just cleaned some of the guns and they weren't quite dry, I think. But yeah, about 400 years. That is the longest running form of ignition in history. It will not be equaled for reliability until we get to percussion arms of the 1840s. Says a lot, doesn't it? And the great thing is, that is a soldier-proof weapon. Because being soldiers, we can break anything. We're really good at it. So, you have three moving parts. You have your trigger, or tricker, depending on the document. You have your sear, and you have your serpentine. It's a simple bell crank, guys. You pull one end, the other end does this. Soldier-proof. If you manage to utterly destroy the lock, you can still bring it up to your shoulder and port fire. Just stick that match in there and it goes off. It's not as accurate. You're going to burn your fingers, but it's still a functioning firearm. It doesn't turn into a baseball bat. The only way to destroy one of these weapons, stick the barrel in the fork of a tree and go like this. Other than that, that gun will function as long as you have powder and shot. And match. All right, so who's got questions? No questions. Wow.
How would they make? And prime your piece. Shut your pan. Cast off loose corns. Blow off your piece. Cast about your piece. Handle your charger and charge your piece. Withdraw your scouring stick and shorten your scouring stick. Ram home your charge. Put away your scouring stick. Cast about your piece. Cock your match. Try your match. Blow on your match. Present your piece. Open your pan and give fire.
Too short. Way too short.
Make sure you uncock your match.
Otherwise you get a surprise and I'd have to do paperwork. You know how I feel about paperwork.
I understand. I don't want to have to be the reason for that paperwork. Hold up your hand.
I'm not loaded.
What?
You didn't get the command.
Oh, okay. Make ready your piece. Cock your match. Present your piece. Open your pan and give fire. Hold. Pan and light it. It would take about 10 years in England to train a strong bowman who could pull back a 200-pound bow, and about 10 days to train someone to fire one of these muskets. So, but once again, but it still would take practice. It would take firing the muskets every day, and anybody who was 16 to 60 in Virginia during this period of time, during 1611, would be in the militia. Whether if you were a farmer or a cooper, or no matter what your job was, you would still be part of the militia. And you would go out and usually drill at least twice a day. And that way that you could, see here, I'll be back. And cast off loose corns. The black powdered grains were called corns. That's why we're saying cast off your corns. You didn't want to leave any laying on top of the weapon. Cast about your piece. Handle your charger. Charge your piece. Withdraw your scouring stick. Shorten your scouring stick. Ram home your charge. Withdraw your scouring stick and put it away. Bring about your piece. Cock your match. Try your match. Blow on your match. Present your piece. Open your pan and give fire. Very well, gentlemen.